we have an example here embedded in the website. So at the very top we have the Korean War Digital History Project, and you can see that we've got a section for lesson plans. And every year that we have teachers contribute, we're going to be improving those lesson plans and adding more here. So you can see here we've got an example from Esri. We have a link here that allows teachers to go learn about how they can set up a free account with their school. So again, totally free, and they get full access as long as they can prove that they're a teacher, which is amazing. So here is our sample that we've done, and we chose some of the features that Esri has to offer because they highlight this topic best. And there are so many different things you can do with Esri. You kind of have to pick and choose depending on what you're trying to show. But this is for the POW experience. We have 2 fantastic interviews in particular of gentlemen that were POWs in the Korean War. And we wanted to highlight their experience and then have students analyze that some. So you can see here that we've got the intro, and any teacher or student or adult, anybody that just wants to learn this lesson, can go to this website. You can see that it's embedded here. You don't need someone to walk you through it, and that's what really makes this a digital textbook in and of itself. And that way you can provide it out to anyone, and there's really no barriers. You're not going to have somebody making excuses as to why they can't teach about the Korean War, because we're bringing down all of those barriers. So this shows you the introduction. It tells you what you're going to be learning about. There's one of the veterans right there. And it tells you exactly what you're going to need to be successful. And it gives you a way to share with social media so that we are all connecting with each other as you go along. So that's an additional feature that they may want to use. And you can see that we chose tabs for this particular one. You can use lots of different features, and I'll show you that in a minute. But we click on the next tab, and this is one of probably the more exciting aspects of it. You're able to make a map that's completely interactive and then put that into your textbook. So on the left you see that we've given directions to the students. Again, anybody can go here. They don't need a teacher to step in and do it for them. So really the teacher can just let them run through this on their own. So it's telling them to describe the patterns and the relationship between the physical landscape and the battles themselves. And watch what we can do here. We can move this map completely around. You can change out this map to be a political map or a physical map, whatever you want them to see. And watch how they're able to zoom in completely. Okay? And each of these represents data that we've added to the map, and everything is clickable. So they're able to click and see where POW camps are located. They're able to click and see one particular POW story and the pictures that are associated with that story. So there they are making their shower. And see how we chose this map on purpose because we wanted the kids to see the relationship between where POW camps are located and the physical landscape. We really kind of wanted them to pick up on the fact that they're all up here close to China on the Yalu River. So, but notice we don't tell them that. We want them to discover that on their own. So, and you can see here, what countries do you think are involved in the Korean War just based on what you're seeing here. So a lot of depth of knowledge, learning on your own, thinking it through, and that's what schools want right now. That is what teachers want, that's what principals want, that's what the international and national standards are asking kids to do. So we're keyed in with that. So you can see the layers, POWs, different battles, and then one person's story in particular. And you could do this with anybody's artifacts. And then watch, we are able to click this and it takes you back to the main page. Okay, so that's one example. You can use interactive maps. You can layer all kinds of things. We could have any information you put into this map will show up in this pop-up. So you could have images, you can have videos that are in here. So you have to just be, you don't want to overload people. So you really have to pick and choose depending on what you're trying to teach. And that's what you put in the map. So for this one, I really wanted them to see the locations of the POW camps in relation to the physical landscape. So that's what we focused on. Okay, so then you click to the next one. Okay, and now we're able to have a page that just has one of our interviews on it. And you're able to have leading questions on the left-hand side. Look, there's no paper and all. No teacher has to walk down and make a copy of the question sheets. Everything is there for them, and it really frees them up to do this however they want to, right? They could reply out loud, they could write it down on paper, they could turn it in through some kind of electronic platform. So this works with any teacher in any school system, no matter what their background is and what's going on. And it has them answer questions, and then it has them connect with the veteran himself. So at the end of the video, for example, the interviewer, which is Dr. Hahn, thanks, Mr. Sheffield. And we've noticed when we play this video that this is really when the adults get teary-eyed, because Mr. Sheffield starts to cry as well. And so you really get that connection with them. And it says, if you could speak with him, what would you say? And so this really drives it home that this is a real man who lived this life and had this experience, and really gets them connected to it. And look, you're able to, I'll show you an example. Starts playing. Okay, and look how I'm able to pause it, so a teacher can click and pause very easily, stop and ask them the questions out loud, or have them write down the answers. So this is very easy. Notice that a teacher has not really had to do much of anything, and it's all set up for them, which is what we want. We want to attract teachers to use this and use it in the classroom, so we're going to make it as easy for them as possible. Okay, so then I go on and click to Charles. He's our other POW. And Charles provided us with a ton of artifacts. He wrote an entire memoir, and look, you're able to click on this one and have that open up, and you can access his entire memoir. So you're able to provide as much information as you want. This is where we would really utilize coming up with strong content that we've had vetted out and checked by our top resources at the collegiate level to make sure that it's good quality information. And this is where you're really going to provide what you would see in a textbook. But the problem is, these days what we get in a textbook is sort of short and doesn't cover the material well. And so this is where we would provide this information to teachers, where they could use it. So they could print it out, they could have it where kids just read it online, they could read it themselves and then use it to inform what they say. So this is a memoir from him, but you can see how any text, any file that you save, you can link into there, and it opens up in a separate tab, so I'm able to reference it and go back and do whatever you're asking me to do. And so anything we have there, you notice we can provide a link, which is great. So we asked them to define some words based on what they read in the memoir and what they can find online, just so they have the background knowledge. And then, again, it's up to the teacher and the student of how they want to record this information, on paper, online. So it really opens it up. And then you're now to highlight another good feature here. We're going to take advantage of these pop-ups. So as you go through, see how it's numbered? As you go through, you're going to click on the different stories, and it follows him through the memoir. So they read the memoir, they click on here, and they get, see, number 5, we're actually at the end of the story here. And it gives you a quote. I know that Thanksgiving Day is the 4th Thursday in November, but I have a special and personal Thanksgiving Day, which is the 2nd day of November. I will always remember the day in 1950 and try each year to remember in prayer those that lost their lives there at Unsan on that fateful day. So we've pulled some really telling quotes and placed them in the pop-up. And then you have the question for the student to think about an answer in the pop-up. So they're clicking and they're following along his journey, and we've placed them in the spots where he actually was. So you can see how they're physically following him through Korea. And then they're answering that question here. And then we even add an additional one. We've pulled artifacts from the digital archive, kwvdm.org. And you can see here, this is obviously too small for you to see right away. So what you have is the ability to click on image URL more info. Look, you've got a huge version of the picture to look at for a teacher to show in front of the class, or for someone to look on their own. And the artifact pulls up nice and big for you to read for yourself and see for yourself. Okay? And then you're able to go back, and it asks you, a leading question about that as well. saying, how does he feel about the friends he left behind? And then what about the North Korean officer in this picture? How do you think she felt at these peace talks? And we intentionally put that there because they actually have quotes from her here telling other soldiers that when you've been there for 13 months, you have lived too long. So notice how a teacher could pull this up and say, what is her perspective? You can kind of hear her tone in the way that she said that. And this is key to what social studies teachers and people who are developing curriculum, this is what they want. They want kids to engage with a primary source, and they want them to investigate what was going on then, what was she thinking. This is exactly what people want to have done, and so we can provide that to them and make it really easy for them to meet their criteria while talking about the Korean War. So that's an example here, and all of that's in here. And notice all of this is just from what we put in the data set to put on the map. So we can change any of the information in here out for whatever we want to show them. So depending on what the artifacts are or what we're trying to teach, this is very customizable. So you click out of there. So we would have them click through the different spots where he goes, right? And answer those questions. And now we can even put even more artifacts on this side as well. So see, here you have a letter that someone wrote to him while he was missing, and it was returned to them, and it notes right on there missing in action. So having kids engage with that. What if you had written someone you cared about a letter, and then it gets returned, and the way you find out that they're missing is it says missing in action on the envelope, so that kids can really engage with that. And Charles was kind enough to give us articles about how he got returned, and this particular one has some really good information about, if you read into it, about who got picked to come home first. So there's it really lays out which particular types of soldiers got to come home. The first freed today was Sergeant, etc., etc. And so what they're able to pull out from this is, how do you think the North Koreans and Americans decided who should be released? So again, they're reading a primary source and they're analyzing it to get more information. And then to adjust it for any group. So if somebody is teaching online or someone's learning this on their own and they have more time, you even have his interview embedded right here. So making it very easy. Nobody has to go to a link that takes you to another site and then look for what you want. Everything is all right here for them. And again, this map is completely interactive. Okay, they're able to work through all of this and click on whatever you provide them and get all that good information. Okay. All right, and then we've got one more tab, and this really brings them back to what we're wanting people to do. So this is encouraging them to take their knowledge and turn it into something that matters. So at the bare minimum, we want them to make it into a poster or make their own video of what they've learned so that they can re-deliver it to other people in their school or their classroom. A lot of teachers will have them do this, learn about one topic and then deliver it to everybody else in the class. So that would be sort of the more traditional way to do things. But we also want to encourage them to think outside the box and figure out how else they can teach other people about what they've learned. And then we want to encourage them to add to the archive. So we encourage them to get out there and interview their grandparents, their great-grandparents, their community members. And we provide them on this website the toolkits and the instructions that they need to set that up. And so we're encouraging them that now that you've sort of been inspired by these two POWs and what you can learn, we want you to go out and find your own POW out in the community. And then we also encourage them, again, to share through social media so that everyone can comment together. And we let them have access to contact us. So it's a lesson that really does a lot. And the nice thing about it is that anybody could pick and choose. So a geography teacher could focus just on the mapping skills. Somebody who's teaching U.S. history or world history could focus just on one of these two guys and their stories. We've got the picture of the 38th parallel there, so they could focus on that. And notice that we edited this in such a way that it's very emotionally charged, and it definitely makes you feel and think, but there's nothing in here that a middle school or a high school student couldn't handle. So it's better than just sending them out there into the internet and find something about a POW, because you never know what they're going to say to you, or what they're going to get exposed to. This lesson we can guarantee is high quality and age appropriate and very easy to use. And so we know that by making this kind of quality lesson that's interactive, we're going to get teachers to use it. So this already does a ton of stuff and really highlights all that Esri is able to do. See Esri there. But Esri can do a lot more. So if we click on the gallery here, you can see there's lots of different samples of story maps and the platform that I showed you. And it's able to do a lot more. And so just as an example, let's click on this one. Okay. And this is not about South Korea, obviously, or North Korea, but this particular story map does some things that ours doesn't. So, and remember, we picked based off of what we were trying to teach. So depending on what you're trying to teach, you could use different features. So right off the bat, it pulls up with a pop-up. For example, if you wanted to provide a textbook file right from the beginning, you can do that, and they'll be able to click and grab that from you. Okay, and then you can click out of that. And notice how they have lots of tabs going on, and they have set up their layers here where you can click things on and off. So see how if you wanted them to look at one thing at a time, you could add different layers. You can make it more transparent, less transparent, right? So depending on what you're trying to teach, like if you wanted to do percentage maybe of people that had perished during that battle, right? Or the number of people, and it could be darker for the more deadly battles that occurred, for example. That might be a good way to use that. And this is what's called a chloropleth map. So takes the region and it color codes it based on how much more, right? So you could do that as well. Categorizes it. So this might be a better feature of who was fighting who, right? So you could color code it that way. And then you can turn things on and off, and you can highlight different regions, different districts. So just on this one page, you could have kids sitting on this one tab for a good amount of time, right? This one even allows you to change out your base map. And you can zoom in, and just imagine if you showed the major battles and had photographs that showed the damage from before, but then you had a current map underneath, so they were able to see what South Korea looks like today and compare those two. You can have images side by side of comparing the two in that same place, right? You can make as many tabs as you need to get your knowledge across. So you could have each tab be a different veteran. You could have each tab be a different battle. The opportunities are really just limitless, and we want to encourage our teachers at our upcoming conference to be the drivers of this, because we think that they're going to be our best advocates. So if we have them take their lessons and their ideas of what they want to teach, and then we show them how to use this, then each one of them is going to make a component to our digital textbook that is proven and tested in the classroom, and that we know is made by a teacher that knows what they're doing. So I hope that this helped explain all that we're able to do, and where we've gotten started here with our lesson plan, but we really want to get teachers involved making their own, so that it all comes together into one big digital textbook that covers all of the major battles, but more importantly highlights the veterans and their stories in relation to those battles. Because what we have right now is just dry content, very little, but very dry content about what happened where. And we want the kids to really feel as if they're sitting across the table with this guy right here and what it was like for him. So engaging with Esri, which is completely free to us, it's an amazing opportunity. That is what we want to do. And we hope to continue forward with that. We're excited about our next conference, which is coming up, where we're going to get more teachers to get involved. So if you have any questions, you can reach out through this website, and you can visit kwdhproject.org, and you've got all the information you need for the conference and how to set up a lesson plan, and you even have the button to click to apply to come be a part of the conference. So we're really excited about this, and we hope that you will be a part of it. Thank you.